time again for your monthly dose of Fistful of Joes. So, stick around. Dorks and Dorkettes, and welcome to It Came From My Side of the Laundry Room. My name's Rob, and yes, this is our monthly installment of Fistful of Joes. This episode will be airing over the holiday season, as you can tell by my Santa hat and holiday Grogu shirt. And I wish I could say this episode was holiday themed in some way, but unfortunately it's not. I mean, the whole randomness of grabbing fistfuls of Joes doesn't really lend to that, and also, yeah, not really anything really Christmassy about G.I. Joe, other than that awesome episode, Cobra Claw's Coming to Town. That is Christmas perfection right there. But anyway, I guess just to make this a little bit more festive, I'll add some snow or something for a couple minutes. Ah, how festive. God bless us, everyone. Ooh, did it get cold in here, or is it just me? Oh, the snow. Oh. Whew. Just like the Christmases I used to know. Anyway, on with the show. Before we get started, I just want to address these. I swear I'm not trying to be the edgy guy in the D&D group that thinks he's cool and tough by wearing these. No. These are my arthritis gloves, and I usually wear them when it gets cold out, which it is. But I'm not wearing them for that reason today. I'm actually wearing them because I have something going on with my hands that's been going on for a while, and the past few weeks it has gotten way out of control, and it looks horrible. A lot of cuts and blood and just nastiness, and I have no idea what it is. And have I gone to the doctor? No. Should I? Yes. Will I? Hopefully, to get this addressed. So anyway, I'm wearing these to spare you all the guts and gore of what's going on under these gloves. So I just wanted to address it so I don't look like I'm just being one of those quiet kids in school that thinks they're tough guy for wearing fingerless gloves. Like Judd Nelson in Breakfast Club. Anyway, so what this is Fistful of Joes. And if you don't know what that is, I keep my G.I. Joe figures in these little totes. And unfortunately, with them being stored this way, I don't get to experience them as much as I want to. So this show is a good way to reach in, grab a fistful of Joes, and show them off, talk about them, have fun with them, and just have a good time. So anyway, without further ado, let's grab a fistful of Joes. Yo, Joe! Okay, folks, here we go. I'm going to reach in, grab a fistful of Joes, and let's take a look. So see what all we get here. And we usually like to do 5. Unfortunately, I just grabbed 4, so let me reach in and grab some more. Mix them up a little bit. Here we go. So now we have 5. As you can see, they're right here. And let's grab the first one. This is Beachhead, one of my favorites. Now, of course, this is a little bit different than his original version. Different color scheme. The vest is a little bit different. But I think the biggest difference is the color scheme and also how little his head looks. Before, he had a big melon head with that cool mask on. So let's take a look at of course, the posability of these figures is awesome. One of the
best improvements they did with the 25th anniversary line compared to the OG line. I mean, some of the ones from the 2000s that they did also had great articulation, so, I mean, it's not completely new. But, yeah, there we go. He's a little stiff. I haven't really had him out playing with them. As usual, I tell the story that I had these all carded, all pristine, put away, and when it came time to move in with my fiance, my wife now, many moons ago, we didn't have room to store them all, so it was either get rid of them or consolidate, and I consolidated. Put them all in these little bags, got them out of their packaging, and believe me, I don't regret it because I love having them. So, first things first, when we're looking at his accessories here, he already has his sidearm in his holster. So, very cool. Again, one of the things I love about the 25th anniversary line, because when I was a kid growing up, you know, you'd see the things molded, like this knife, molded on there, and you would pretend like, oh, he's gonna grab for his knife, yeah, but you didn't have a knife, you just pretended, as he's shanking some poor viper or something. So what they improved with this line is including some of those things. Now, this is unfortunate. They could have definitely finagled something in there. I mean, the Storm Shadow in this line has a small dagger stuck in his belt to mirror the original figure. They could have done that here, probably without that big of a deal. But anyway, a grenade here on the side, that's kind of cool. Has his beret tucked in, which much better of a job molding it on here than the original figure. But again, I have to point out the color scheme, vastly different. I love the rich forest green of the original figure opposed to this olive drab. But still, pretty cool. Also, the detailing of the ribbing, which I guess is like a, you know, a cotton ski mask, for lack of a better term, isn't as prominent on this figure as it is with the original. Of course, you probably can't see that with this camera, but just take my word for it. So we're going to put him down for a second and take a look at his accessories. First thing is his backpack. Got some rope here, and in the original backpack, he had a crossbow. So it looks like they actually included it, this time. And it comes off. Of course, it seems to be very finicky. Maybe a little crazy glue would fix that for another time. But it looks pretty cool. It almost looks like Chewbacca's bowcaster with how it has this hollowed out stock looking thing. But very cool. To be honest, I've never had him hold it, so it doesn't have a grip to it. So I guess you can just have him hold it like so. So they could have done that a little bit better, but points for awesomeness either way. So let's put that back in there. And what I was going to say, I think before it rudely launched off of the backpack at me, was the original had one molded onto his backpack. And again, one of those things where you had to use your imagination that he was going to pull it off and use it. Was a lot smaller of a scale than this one on that molded backpack. But this is a welcomed and awesome addition. And we have his machine gun here, submachine gun, that is Very reminiscent of the original, just I guess a little bit more realistic looking than the gray one that he originally had, with more of like a skinnier fold out stock looking appearance on it. This is probably a pull out stock, a little bit more hardy than the like probably flip down stock of the 80s one. Now mind you, none of that was articulated, and it's not with this. This is just, you know, just thinking about what it is and how it was used and its real world practicality. So he looks great. Put his backpack on him. See, and that crossbow, that is an issue. Definitely will have to put some crazy glue on that. Not on the whole thing, just on this part so it stops popping off. It's got a little post here. It's probably really blurry, but a little tiny post here that goes into a little hole here, and then this kind of just threads in. Boop, boop, done. So here he is, all geared up. Of course, 25th anniversary comes with a cool base. I think Santa will be bringing me the classified version of this, so I can't wait to take a look at that. Anyway, on to the next one, because I can see I talked about Beachhead for far too long looking at the minutes on this camera. So, on to the next one. Next, we have another 25th anniversary, and this is Red Star from the October Guard. And this came in a comic 2-pack. So the file card was not on the packaging, it was in the packaging. And great gear. Right off the bat, you can see great gear. Just a really nice, basic looking figure. There's a canteen here. He's got a sidearm of a revolver. And the sidearm holster has like a flap that goes down. Sorry, I have it upside down. A flap that goes down. It would be nice if that somehow attached, but it does not. No biggie. He's got a satchel with a red star on it for the October Guard. The only thing that kind of stinks is those grenades. Satchel has a hard time resting on his shoulder with these grenades positioned so high up. But I really dig the colors. This blue here just really sets it off. Of course, when you put on his hat, which fits great, looks great, stays on really nice. So big fan of that. Sometimes you run into the helmets or the hats just not sitting right. We ran into that recently. I forget which figure it was exactly. But has a nice oversized backpack here. Very nice. Now it looks like he comes with a mine. So maybe it would go into this container if it would fit. So that's kind of disappointing. There's nowhere to really put it. And he comes with a knife, which there is no sheath for it on him. So that's kind of odd. Usually are good with including a sheath somewhere, either on the combat webbing, on the belt, on the boot, somewhere. But that's pretty neat. He comes with an extra knife. Sorry, I'm cutting off his head. And he comes with a rifle. So let's try to pose him with it and speed along, since I took so much time talking about Beachhead. But granted, like I said, he's definitely one of my favorites growing up. I think anything with a mask in the 80s was a favorite. I mean, it could double as a ninja or whatever. Oh, come on. So very good looking figure, very snazzy. Again, these extra accessories are really awesome that they're included, but it would be great if they fit somewhere on him, like most of the figures in this line. Of course, comes with a base, his file card, and great figure. Now, I can tell you that he didn't get pulled in this episode, but there's another October Guard character in this box, and he is definitely not one of my favorites, and we will get into that whenever he gets brought up into the rotation. So anyway, here we go. A classic Joe. This is one I actually bought on eBay pretty recently, over the past year or so. He doesn't have all of his accessories, and let me point that out before we go on. He's missing his microphone here. I planned on making something and, you know, matching it to this green, and I may one day, but I didn't do the project I had thought about at the time, because I bought him for a specific reason, and I just never got to the project that I had planned. Maybe one day. But anyway, I was going to jury rig something there for that. So this is Scoop. He is the combat photographer, if you will, of G.I. Joe. Surveillance and all that good stuff. Interesting color scheme, definitely not my favorite. And honestly, I hate to say it, but I don't even remember what all accessories he originally came with. But definitely had something that went on his leg, because there's a post there. But in this auction on eBay, he only came with his backpack and his camera, which were the things that I was really looking forward to the most, and were what I needed for the project I was concocting at the time. So even without his microphone, it is a great helmet, fits perfectly. The red lenses of the goggles look great. I mean, of course, this is the time frame most people point that G.I. Joe started going downhill, but I mean, there's some great figures. Let's see if he's stamped with the year. Made in Hong Kong, H1, Hasbro, 89. So, I mean, he's still an 80s Joe from the original line, just the tail end of it. So, unfortunately, I don't have a lot to say, because he's not a character I have a lot of history with. And like I said, I bought him for a specific reason, and maybe one day we will get back to that idea I had, but for now, I'm just happy to have him in my collection. So he goes over here with them. Next is one from the early 2000s, the Joe vs. Cobra line, and this is Flash. This is from a comic 2-pack, and I believe it was a space issue of the comic, and Flash went into space. So you have this awesome astronaut's outfit for him with removable helmet. I mean, very much inspired by Ace as well, with the cool visor and helmet. Granted, like double the size of Ace's helmet. Looks like the O-ring might be getting a little old. But that was the one thing you got to love about that era of Joe. And I've pointed it out before. They had a great mixture of new molds with, you know, new and good articulation, but granted not very good designs, mixed with classic O-ring figures of new characters, you know, redecoed characters, just the normal OG characters in O-ring form. And it was really interesting because all within the same universe of G.I. Joe at the time, you could have two of the same character, just vastly different. Now these comic 2-packs, I mean, they were great if you were a fan of the comic. They made a lot of characters that, and you know, outfits for characters, especially the green shirt guys. They did a great job of bringing those guys back, you know, the original Joes, in new and interesting outfits, like this astronaut outfit for Flash. So really cool figure, really, you know, to the original 60s G.I. Joe, because there was an astronaut outfit in that universe. So nice throwback to that design as well. Let's see if there's any stamping to what year. See, it's kind of hard to tell because they reused parts. So this says 93 on it, but I can tell you with a clear conscience, this did not come out in 1993. File card doesn't say. So all I can say is it's the Joe-verse Cobra, or Venom or Valor, or whatever you want to say, from the early 2000s. So thank you, Flash. Into the pile with you. And wow, now we have Rock and Roll. Also from that same era. Here's his file card. And here he is with all of his accessories. It would have been cool if that astronaut Flash came with, I mean, he came with the classic Joe rifle from the animated show, but it would have been cool if he came with like a, you know, a version of his original laser gun. But here we go, Rock and Roll with his heavy machine gun. Comes with a stand or bipod. Why do I feel like we've already looked at him recently? Maybe we did. Maybe I have a couple versions of him. Maybe I filmed an episode and it didn't get finished. I can't recall, but I just feel like I've looked at him more recently. I know what it was. I grabbed him to play with the Soundwave figure, the Kingdom Soundwave that I unboxed recently. That's what it was. Now I remember. So he was hanging out with the 3 3/4 sized Soundwave from the Kingdom line. So yes, that's where it was, because they talked to each other of being music fans and rock and roll. So really, I mean, really upped the face sculpt from the original. I mean, the original just had blonde coloring for hair and beard. Now you actually have sculpting of more of his shaggy hair that was in the comic and his shaggy beard. I mean, I love this shade of green, more reminiscent of the comic, but not, I mean, it would have been cool if this would have been in the olive drab of like the original figures. But of course he has the cross bandoliers like he originally did, but more in tone with the comics, with the color scheme of the boots and the greens and the t-shirt underneath. Big old backpack here, kind of nondescript, probably a reproduction of someone else's backpack. I mean, look, it even has a little post here, so whomever this backpack originally belonged to must have had a hose that either went to their helmet or to a weapon. So interesting. Sure, I could look it up in my Joe encyclopedia, or look it up on yojo.com, which is a great website that I could utilize for things like this. But I like the spontaneity of grabbing a fistful of Joes and just marching forward with it. So don't come here looking for facts, folks. I'm just here talking about how cool these figures are and how much I love them. So anyway, that's rock and roll from that same era of Joe vs. Cobra I was talking about. Like with Flash, this was probably from a comic 2-pack as well. Because I think most of them were sold that way in 2-packs in that period, which is pretty cool because you usually got a Joe and a Cobra, or a villain of some sort, or an ally of some sort, which was a really neat way of packaging Joe at the time. I mean, that would have been great for a kid just starting out to have 2 figures right off the bat, and they could fight each other or be friends with each other or what have you. So, very good marketing at the time for that. Anyway, that's rock and roll. We'll throw them in the pile and we're done. So I hope you enjoyed this. Now back to me.
Back to me. I hope you enjoyed that episode. We got a nice cross section of a bunch of different eras of G.I. Joe. We had 25th anniversary, the early 2000s, which I don't really know what to name them, so I just usually call them the Joe vs. Cobra line. Which some of them were titled that at that time period. And we got an OG from 1989 with Scoop. These are the fistfuls that I live for. Just a bunch of different characters in different eras with different aspects of awesomeness. So I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please give me a thumbs up. If you got something to say, please leave a comment. I love reading them and I love getting back to everybody. And if you're new around here and you enjoyed this or any of the episodes that YouTube is recommending down here, please hit subscribe. And if you hit that little bell icon, you will be notified whenever there's a new episode. So anyway, until next time, thanks for watching. Keep being rad and stay dorky.